Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. So with that being said, I hope you guys appreciated the thumbnail that I picked out for this. Slowly but surely my knowledge is coming along fine of how to run these live streams with more than what I had the last time. So in steps, I'm getting better. Let me start off by thanking those who came through on the Cash App last time. Shouts out to Jay Bostic, K Saul, K Washington, S Jock, multiple times, Maleka Mebane, M Johnston, A Dean, and M Burton for coming through on the Cash App. Gail at Night, J Smart, Fula Man, and M Johnston. I think I mentioned him before, but also M Green, Darius Ducree, M Churchill, from the bottom of my black heart, from the depths of my black mind, R Green, P Goulsby. I really appreciate you guys coming through. And then Will Williamson, you've come through, and most of all, D. Smith has come through with the most in terms of quantity, and S. Jock has come through the most in terms of consistency. So special shouts out to them. I really do appreciate you all from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. You've made a lot of things easier than what I would have expected. You have, with the time that you bought me, I've been able to actually learn more about how to run these live streams, pay employees, streamline the business that I started for educational supplies. And, well, that's the gist of it. You've also given me time to learn more about how to add in media. Eventually I will probably learn how to add in an intro video if possible. Assalamu alaikum, Israel Young Lion. I hope that Ramadan's going well for you. Today, tonight for me, yesterday in the daytime for most, or the evening for most of you, it's already Thursday morning here. It's about to be 3 a.m. Thursday morning. For most of you, pretty much for all of you, it's still Wednesday. In about 50 minutes, I'm going to need to start eating the pre-dawn meal so that I can carry on the fasting for the next day. And so therefore, I really can't take too long, even if I wanted to. It's not an option. Unless I was going to break this up into two, eat and then come back. I'm not planning on eating in you all's ear. So I'm going to have to put two of these into one live stream. If that's what it takes, so be it. First thing I needed to talk about was the second part of Read or Perish. If we don't read, we're going to really look entirely stupid with a lot of things, because not reading takes good intentions and it undermines them, and it causes stupidity in place. That's what happens when you don't read. You think you're too good to read. Then you wind up just being an idiot. Now you're just dumb. You mean well, but you don't know what you're talking about. And it shows up and everybody can see it, and there's not really much you can do to get around that. It's too late. I mean, everybody gets to see what kind of dummy you are, what kind of idiot you are. So you're not malicious, but you become the stupid friend that is more dangerous than the intelligent enemy. If you make peace with an intelligent enemy, then you don't really have to, as long as they abide by the peace, you don't really have to worry too much. The stupid friend is the one that sets you up and makes you not only look dumb, because that could be used to your advantage. Subterfuge is very powerful, especially against an intelligent enemy. But the dumb friend will turn around and cost you alliances. Not only alliances, but actual genuine friendships, because stupid people cause misunderstandings. A little dim-witted. And how can you tell? Well, one of the ways you can tell is that you ask them something and then they answer, or you tell them something and then they reply to something you did not say. So you either ask them a question and they answer another question you didn't ask, or you tell them something and they start replying to something you didn't say, or they ask you to repeat what you've already said, and it's not because they couldn't hear you because of noise. It's not that. It's because they just didn't pay attention. Those are dummies, and that happens. I wish it wasn't the case, but oftentimes it is. So that's the stupid friend. And the one that doesn't read becomes stupid, so to speak, even if they're not truly stupid. They're just ill-informed, but they don't let you tell them anything. So the one that doesn't read can be a friend of yours personally, as long as you don't involve them in the things that are of your business, whether it's the business that makes money or a cause of yours in which you truly believe and you want to advance. Either way, they're going to hold that back. They don't read. And you can tell because they don't actually answer the questions you ask, because they don't even take the time to fully understand. Earlier today, I tried to send money to a friend of mine. He's a very nice guy. He means well. No, he's not black. He means well, but he typically will sit up and he will respond to you as if he's correcting you about something you didn't even say. And you're sitting up thinking to yourself, this is not even a debate. What is this ninja doing? That's not even what I was talking about. So in order to send him some money, because he took it upon himself to order something I can't easily get within the country. Honestly, grits. Just grits. Specialty stores here have them. Regular stores don't. He said, hey, I can order through Amazon and not pay too much. So he ordered some. I said, okay, what does that come out to? He ordered several packs of grits. They came out to a little bit over 20 US. I said, okay, cool. Do you have this program called STC Pay? It's a quick way to transfer money. Yeah, I got it. Okay, cool. I looked on there. I said, wait a minute. When I pull up your number, you're not on the app for me to send it to you. Oh, so then he got involved in this 45-minute long process of trying to transfer the app's information over to his new phone that he's had. He installed the app a long time ago. He's since bought a new phone. He wound up getting a phone call from somebody in customer service, and somebody from the Philippines was talking to him, and I heard him on speaker, and the guy said, okay, listen, hold on. Assalamu alaikum, Abdullah bin Bobby. So the customer care worker said to him, listen, is this your first time logging in on a new device? He was like, no, I got the same number. And I started to interrupt and say, Ninja, this is a new device. No, the number's the same. Dummy, he didn't ask you about the phone number. He said the device itself. You know you get a new iPhone every 18 months. You just told him it was 6 years ago when you first downloaded this app. That was before I even knew the app existed. You downloaded it. That was when you had an old phone. You've been through 2 new phones that I know of since that time. New device, new device, new device. He didn't say new phone number. Would you listen? I had to tell him this during Ramadan. He was trying to tell me, stop, I can't multitask. I'm listening to him and I'm listening to you. And I said, you ain't listening to nobody. This is a new device. Tell him it's a new device. Finally, he said, oh, yeah. The phone itself is new, not the number. I was like, Ninja, we established that. Dang, you an idiot, bro. Now, this is a nice guy. He's a teacher, but he doesn't like to read carefully. When you put something in front of him that he has to read, he tries to zip through it, speed read, and it's affecting the way he's going through his graduate program. He keeps getting feedback to go back and do it over again. I know because I did the same thing 2 weeks ago. I was given a task to do. I said, I'm not going to sit here and take a whole lot of time and go through this thing tediously. I'm just going to race through it. I'm going to rush through it. I looked at the instructions and I didn't take time to memorize nothing, and I kept trying to rush through it. Now, this, in my case, it was being stubborn because I already had a lot of other stuff to do, and I didn't volunteer to be put on this committee. So the lady in charge kept saying, hey, listen, Black, go back and look at the instructions again. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I'm a speed read. I'm never going to slow down when I'm reading. Never. I'm in too much of a rush. I outright told her. But mine was based on stubbornness. It's the same thing. So if you're somebody that doesn't hate to read, you're just not going to take time to do it because of whatever other reason. It's the same as if you're someone who just will not read. And we're going to have to, as a black community, decide early on that we are through with niggas who only start reading when they are finished with their idness tour of duty. I'm not saying that we say to them, you can't change because you were in idness at one point. What I'm saying is we start saying to them, listen, you're not going to be able to lead. You need to read, but you're not going to teach. You ain't lecturing. You're reading to learn. You're not reading to teach. Why not? Well, you're not reading to teach because we no longer need teachers about that life you ain't living no more and what it ain't about no more. Because in all honesty, if you don't like to read, then you're going to have affectations left over from being that nigga. And we don't even need that much. We don't even need you swaggering onto the stage to talk to the youth. They need to be forced to listen to Urkel, who never walked the idness path. And I'm saying this as somebody who can really get irritated when a black man gets up and starts sounding like a white guy. Not in terms of what he's saying per se, but how he says it. I'm someone that can get irritated. I'm like, you sound just like a white dude. You must think they superior because you talk like them. I'm one of those guys that'll say that. Assalamu alaikum, Bilal. I mean to your dua, may Allah make us reach Laylatul Qadr. And that's if it hasn't. That's if it has not passed us up already. I think tonight, if I'm not mistaken, is the 26th night. So that means that tomorrow should be the 27th night. And then we have the 29th. And there will be no 31st night. So we got two more possibilities for Laylatul Qadr. For those of you that are wondering, Laylatul Qadr means the night of power. Also, let me remind you all that this Cash App hasn't rung. Now, I'm not asking anybody to send in large amounts. D. Smith has done that. As Jock has sent in more than I've asked. Most of you have that have sent anything in. But what I'm asking is that those of you listening to the live or to the replay put in between $1 and $2. That's what I'm asking for. I'm only requesting that much. This way it's easier on everybody and we all win. So, with that being said, we're going to have to make our minds up that there will be no more former idness that lead any reforms amongst us. None of that. Now, we don't need somebody that sounds like an Urkel. We don't need someone that sounds like a white guy, per se. Someone that sounds like they think that you're inferior because you're black and people can hear it. We don't necessarily need that. And I'm not saying it because I get irritated. I'm saying that for the reason that I get irritated. There's nothing inferior about us sounding different from other people. there's something in theory if we simply cannot make sense. And typically speaking, it's been those who don't like to read that make the least sense when they talk, oftentimes because they speak the most ambiguously. And that's why. Shouts out to Jay Bostic again. Man, I really appreciate you coming through. Hold on. I think this is you. Oh, wait, this was something you sent a while back. There was one that just came in a few minutes ago, and I'm waiting on this to update. Gail, thank you so much from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. I see yours. See, that's all I'm asking for right there. Came in with 2. Imagine if all of you who hear this send between 1 and 2. If all of you here sends between 1 and 2, we all win. It's easy that way. We can't afford these guys to come through with this anymore and lead all of these so-called reforms. And the reason I say that is because they've been allowed to really lead this whole, well, pretty much everything. They've been allowed to lead everything that we preach, everything that we talk about. Every type of reform, they've been allowed to lead all of that. They get to turn around and get the best speaking engagements. They get to be the ones that say the most to the largest audiences and collect most for doing it. But the message that they're not putting out there is the one that we all need. We need someone that gets up there and says, hey, look, you know what? How about you bypass all of this? Yeah, you know what? For you, Bilal, I really appreciate that, Bilal. I appreciate that. But don't even worry about it because you're not in the States or the UK. If you were to go to buy me a coffee, then it'll give you the option. And in all honesty, if anybody that sends in more, anybody that sends in 10 to buy me a coffee will get first class because I'll put their email address in first class. Oh, wait a minute. Cash App, it's allowed in the UK, but I don't know what its name is in the UK. But in any case, Bilal, if you were to go to buy me a coffee, if you put in let's say if you put in 10, then if you put in 5, then put you in business class for the length of time. If you put in 10 or more, then I'll put you on first class for the length of time appropriate for what it is that you sent. So in all honesty, people that'll send in something, they'll get like I'll award them first class access based on the length of it is going to be based on what it is that they sent. So I do it that way. Now you did send something on PayPal a while back. I don't know if you mean you just now did it, but you did send something on PayPal a while back. My colleague is the one that has that one. That's actually a colleague of mine's. And he'll turn around and he puts it in my account if somebody sends anything to it, as long as he knows. But if you're talking about buy me a coffee, then yeah, if you're having trouble on this, then buy me a coffee is actually probably even more efficient. Good idea, Gail at night. Let me go ahead and peace, Shaka Nulu. So let me go ahead and put this in, Gail at night. It's in the link to buy me a coffee is in the description, but I'll go ahead and place that in here too. All right, let's see here if this comes through. Let's see if that link goes through. All right, looks like that link went through. Yep. Okay. Wait, I'm sorry, y'all. You know what? No, that's not right. My bad. Hold on. Let me get rid of that message. That's not what I meant to send in. I'll put this link up in here right quick. There we go. That's it there. All right. So this link that I just now put in, that's the one. I put it into the chat. Gail was right. All right. So, okay. Hold on. New. Came through with a generous one. This is more than I could have requested. I really do appreciate that. I mean that from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. Thank you so much. This is a good bit. I did not expect this. Thank you so much. So getting into this not reading thing, we're going to have to not necessarily reject the reforms of the ones that the former idnists, the former knuckle draggers. We just have to reject the leadership. And we also have to reject them for some of the speaking engagements that are going to pay a lot. Simply put, when we start hiring people to come and speak to the youth, we need to prioritize those who never went the idnist route over those who did. That's the end of it. They need to get priority from this point on. I'm not saying this because I don't have any record. I'm not saying this because I didn't go the idnist route. I did some things for which if I'd been caught, they could have ruined my life. Now, they were not habitual, only about 2 or 3 times, but yeah, I've ridden dirty before. Wouldn't do it again. If I'd been busted, it would have been over. But you know what? We still need to remove that sort of influence from us, from the population, from the youth, especially from amongst the boys. So we're going to have to start teaching the youth themselves at a young age. Listen, not only read, but start now while you're young. Don't wait till you're old to decide you're going to listen to the advice that I gave you. Hell, don't even wait until you're 13. Start now when you're 8. You pick what you read what you like, but you're going to read a good bit of it. You're not going to sit up here and just come with excuses as to why you don't want to do it. You see, last semester, I had several students that were just seriously anti-academic, anti-intellectual. I told y'all about that. That's when all of them failed. One of them, his last name is, let's say that his last name means Rocky. We'll say that. His last name translated would be Rocky. I had 2 of them in the class with that name, that last name. So there was a tall, skinny Rocky and fat Rocky, or stocky Rocky. Tall, skinny Rocky didn't take accountability. He was the one that sat up in my class in front of all the other students and said, Instructor Black, you say that we're all about to fail, but you're going to give us free grades. He said this in front of the other in front of his classmates. I told him that's not the case, and so a lot of them believed him. That's one of the reasons that so many failed. But Stocky Rocky told me at one point, I don't like to read. I hate to read. And I said, do you mean in English or in Arabic? He said, period. I hate reading. I don't like to read in any language. Well, he didn't like to read, so he didn't study, so he failed. His English is up. Still jacked up to this day. And I teach you how to fix your mistakes. Tall, skinny Rocky later on came into my classroom with everybody else and said, Instructor Black, you know there is a law, there's Judgment Day. He said this like I'm doing them wrong because they failed. And I told him, Ninja, I know that. I'm not giving you extra marks because I don't know that there's a God in the Judgment Day. I don't owe you extra free grades. I'm not giving them to you because there is a God in the Judgment Day. And this God can ask me on Judgment Day, why did you just let these unprepared students through in a university that asked you not to do that? That's why. Nyoko. But Stocky Rocky tried to go and say later that I didn't explain English. He didn't like to read. He learned nothing. He didn't like to write. So he didn't write any notes down. So that's why he failed. Skinny Rocky failed because he thought and told others, and they believed him, that I was supposed to just give them free marks if they didn't pass. No, you fail, you fail. Stocky Rocky didn't like to read. He didn't like to write nothing. He just kept making the same mistakes. Walaikum salam, Nana. And so since he didn't like to write any notes, he did this to himself. And he believed what Skinny Rocky said. I'm telling you all this because if you don't like to read at all, you do something that's going to harm you, that's going to set you back. Now, there's no reason to commit crimes here financially, especially for many citizens. They don't have to do that for the most part. So a criminal lifestyle is not something that they have to turn around and get into, but he still failed and he lost money. He wasted, you know how much it was? He wasted 8,000 US dollars of his dad's money. That's how much this kid wasted. Because he hates to read and didn't take notes and didn't fix a single mistake he made in English. Not one. The mistakes he made the first day I met him were the mistakes he was making on the last day when he was trying to complain about why he should be allowed to pass without learning anything. Straight up niggerdom. Well, how much worse is it going to be for us when we don't have a government that's just paying stuff to us, paying for our health care? As an example, paying for our education. We don't have that. We don't have a government that's paying for anything for us per se without taking more out of us. And where I live, the government's not going to give a whole lot to me without taking stuff from me, but it's a better deal than what the U.S. offers. I'm not a citizen. I don't have free health care. I get health insurance with the job. I don't have a free education, but I'll be able to afford one for my kids here more easily than ever in the States. But you factor in the fact that you don't have that over there in the States where you are. And then, how much can we really get away with not reading? And we cannot afford anybody that's going to sit up there and tell our people that if they don't want to read now when they're young, they can still be niggas, stereotypical niggas, and just decide to read later when they're older. No, even if that's not the message they give intentionally, the fact that they're the only ones who get up on stage and start preaching this stuff is a problem. The kids are learning about, all they're learning is how to get through the idness phase before you decide to do anything responsible for your future. That's all they're learning. They're not learning how to sit up here and not go through that idness phase from the very beginning. The other thing, too, is we're going to have to start telling our daughters, listen, sweetheart, if you want to pick your man, I still need to vet him, but if you're going to pick your man needs to be one of those non-formal idnesses. What you mean? Don't come to me with a ninja that has a past. If he's changed, great. But don't come to me with somebody that's got a past. See, daughters, especially our daughters, are going to really be drawn to that. They're not the only ones in the world that are going to be like that. You got Muslim women in the UK whose parents are Muslim, whose grandparents are Muslim, whose families have been Muslim for millennia. But they grew up in the UK one generation, and now all they want is bad man and rude boy. Since they can't have that, then they want the ex-bad man and the ex-rude boy. He's changed now. And you got these dudes that are preaching. They're religious guys, and they ain't black, in the UK, and they're preaching, and they're telling these women, we're sick and tired of you coming to us with your horror stories because you insisted on marrying these guys, and they didn't completely get it out of their system. You came and told your dad and everybody else, but he's changed. He's different. He's praying now. He's preaching now. But he couldn't get that nigga lifestyle, that road warrior lifestyle, bad man and road man lifestyle out of his system completely. The one thing he may have had left is an addiction to alcohol or an addiction to running women. And that's exactly what it is that you fell victim to. You're lucky he married another wife. And you're mad about that. What happens when he just has girlfriends? You don't want to be married and you upset because of the girlfriends that he has if he's got girlfriends on the side. And you ticked off about that. But you didn't want him if nobody else wanted him. We're talking about some of these preachers in the UK who themselves are these ex-road men. And they became serious about their faith later. And they read and they pray and they preach. And they're sick and tired of these broads. Because they know that there are guys who come out of that idness lifestyle, but they retain certain addictions even after they've changed. And they know these guys shouldn't be married. But you know what? These women insist. So we got to start telling these women that we love it's the same thing, sweetheart. You know what? No ex-niggas. Don't bring them to me. I don't even want the affectations of that lifestyle on them. They ain't got to be Urkel. That's an extreme. But that's better than an ex-idness, let alone an idness. If you have to choose between Urkel and a knuckle dragger, you bring Urkel in my doorstep or I'm going to beat you at. You get the idea. This is important. This is paramount that we start telling them this. Because you see, many of us are never going to be able, those of us that are not married are probably never going to be able to marry sisters. The good ones are inside, they're hiding, or they're just too busy, whatever the case is, they exist. But like AC said, you can't find them. By the time you do, you're broken and you're broke. He was right about that. Do they exist? Yeah. Can you find them? No. And just because they're good women doesn't mean that they're going to want you. So that's out. You can actually find the good women of other cultures if you're leaving. And the truth be told, that's about to end too. Because these other places, and this is something for another day, but another upload, another recording, but these other places are being changed as we speak. I said this years ago it was going to happen. Now it is. Didn't somebody get stabbed in Thailand recently, if I'm not mistaken? There was another guy that got led into a makeshift bar and he was assaulted. He was an old guy from Canada. He got assaulted by different women. Man, look, what I'm getting at is that these places are already being changed, partially because of the wrong dudes going there and going for the wrong reasons. But they're also being changed simply because they can be, because they're being targeted for the messages of misandry. Once the misandrists in the West here that passport bros, even if it's not just passport bros, like to go to any particular place because they're treated better, they start targeting those women with the message of what we don't deserve and how not to treat us. And it's working. The misandrists of the West want to terraform the world so that wherever we land in the same environment we left. And they're already progressing towards that. Now, I said that was going to happen a while back if we didn't get ahead of them. But, you know, nobody wants to listen to old Black. So old Jet Black doesn't know what he's talking about. Or people want to listen and then they forget. That's more likely to happen. I'm not really discarded and treated unfairly in that regard with contempt. It's not that. It's just many people would just outright forget. They know that what I'm saying will be helpful if they follow it, but then they forget. Like, for instance, what I said about the Cash App. A lot of y'all already forgot. So one more thing. that's pretty much it about Rita Paris that I wanted to say. Um, well, let's see here. Let me address this one here. Good question. Leaving a Muslim country for the West is a itness thing a Muslim family can do. That's true. If you're not fleeing in an emergency or war, and and the only visa you could get is to the West, I don't see why. Now, some people in certain war zones can only get a visa to one of the Western countries, and I know why they would do it. But outside of that, no, why would they? And then you said, so why should convert fathers marry their daughters to men from these societies? The truth be told, if the sons were born in the West and they don't think their parents should have raised them in the West, I would understand that. However, they're still going to carry certain cultural baggage if they're not careful. Most of the converts that are in the West are from our origin. African origin, American citizenship, or citizenship in the Americas, I should say. Whether it's the United States or other elsewhere in the Americas, we make up the majority. Then you get these people with the cultural baggage in which white is normal and black is pathologized. No. White heritage is not normal. White DNA is. It's just a DNA sequence that God created because he allowed people to adapt to their environments. But their heritage, that Western European heritage, is not normal. It's a heritage of brutality and conquest, but more so double standards and hypocrisy. It is not something normal. And when you have these Muslim boys who come from those societies in the West, even if if they're very serious about Islam more so than their parents, oftentimes that's one thing they may or may not miss. It's a gamble. What is your understanding of racial justice, young man? It could be hit or miss. I met some of those dudes, and they think that it was wrong for black Zimbabweans to kick off the white farmers from land that their grandfathers never bought but then passed down to them. They're like, oh, no, don't you think that's racist? No, Father Mucker, I don't. I think that's anti-racist. One of them was from Zambia. Pakistani guy, but born and raised in Zambia. And he said, look me in the face, had the nerve to look me in the face in a place where I'm paying rent, asked me that. No, ninja, that's not racist. That's anti-racist. Don't you think it's racist that the grandfathers of those white farmers took the land, didn't buy it, and passed it on to their kids? Don't you think that was racist? Where your Islam at? This guy can't marry my daughters. Can't afford that. So we got that about the reading and Rita Parish. Now, I got about 15 minutes before I got to start getting busy with this food. I see that people have still forgotten what I said. Yep, people still forgot. All right, so about Adolescence, here's the review of it. And I don't want to take too long, but I finally saw Adolescence. I saw it. I thought it was going to be a movie, but it turned out to be a series. I was shocked to find out that it was a miniseries. But it was deep. Quite deep. The turning point to me the turning point to me was when Adam met with his dad, D.I. Bascom. They met in that room, and he said, listen, Dad, it's embarrassing watching you flounder about. And I thought, okay, see, that's some teenage stuff, because this is what the crux of the gender war, this is at the crux of the gender war. Well, what is the gender war? The gender war is, in a nutshell, it's women of the West being secretive, being mysterious, just like traditional women are, being mysterious and secretive. being very private, being very confusing, hard, impossible to figure out, being this way intentionally, but then on top of that, blaming the men for not understanding them. That's at the crux of the gender war, and that starts in adolescence. Hell, it starts in childhood, but definitely adolescence. And that's one of the cruxes of it. What are they being so secretive about? What are they hiding? Whatever the hell it is, that's exactly foot the walk you need to learn about them. And that's part of why I say I like the son of man, the son of Mary, the Messiah, alayhi salam. I, like Jesus, like Isa, according to the book of Matthew, I say according to that. Don't come to bring peace, but a sword. I came to bring division. Whatever the hell they don't want us to know about him, I want to be exposed. Is it hatred? No, not at all. Big shout out to Gregory Scotland. Thank you so much from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. I see that. And this is for Gregory Scotland and for every other donor that's come through on this so far. This thing is not playing. All right, there we go. Finally got that to... Oh my God. I pressed that thing a long time ago. Now it's responding. Y'all hear that? Okay, finally. Boy, that thing is annoying. All right. So I really appreciate that. And I mean that. Thanks a million. You're going to see my reply in a bit. Okay. All right. The reply has been stored. So I see somebody did not forget what I just said about that. Someone did pay attention. Someone paid the tuition. So, at the crux of the gender war is that, all this mystery, and then blaming guys for not understanding these mysteries. The other thing is that when he started to explain to his dad, this is what these things mean, all of this has a meaning, then all of a sudden people began to realize that this was not just about misogyny, it was about bullying in general. That's what this was about. That this was about the societal deterioration. Now there are certain things that would make you look and say, well, you know, the directors keep going around the point, but the directors missed the point. No, the directors were hinting at the point. That's just it. The directors were hinting at the point. The movie was about missing the point. The series was about missing the point. Wa alaikum salam and Ramadan Mubarak. B. Snelling, thank you from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind. I see that one. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So, there's something. So this was a series, not a series that missed the point. This was a series written by the directors and the writers in such a way as to point out that the society keeps missing the point. And see, everything, it also showed that, frankly speaking, they're not capable of sympathy with men. They're just not capable of it. If you're not their type, they hate you, and that's the end of it. That's why the character Jade, the girl that was Katie's close friend of the victim, Jade, jumped out of line when they were all lined up during the school alarm. jumped out that line, crossed several lines, went over to Ryan and just slugged him and started stomping him. It wasn't just because she was angry. Think about this. What it said is, you know what? When women hit guys, so what? And it's the guy's fault, and then he's a punk because a girl beat him up. But if he defends himself, he's a punk because he defended himself from a woman. So either way it goes, you're just wrong. That's the whole point of this. You're wrong no matter what you do. That was one of the things, that was one of the illustrations, because as soon as Ryan was on the ground and he was getting his butt stomped out, and then they pulled her off of him, the next thing was that a guy that Ryan could have beaten up said, "You just got beaten by a girl," and then he called him a sausage. And when it was that Bascom went and asked the other DI, the DS, I forgot her name already, but the detective sergeant went and asked her, and then that lady at the school, what do y'all know about this? The lady from the school didn't really know, but the detective sergeant was like, "Oh, that's that Andrew Tate business." They called him by name. I don't agree with hardly anything that man says about religion anymore, for obvious reasons. I've told people before, you can ask Israel Young Lion and Bilal and Abdullah in the chat. When you become Muslim, that's a commitment. You don't just walk out. Def Raka, Ramadan Mubarak, Assalamu Alaikum. You can ask Def Raka about that. However, when it comes down to gender, even guys like Andrew Tate are onto something. They can see it because this is how open and obvious it's getting. Now, why is it so open and obvious? Because Instagram, which they call by name, shows you a lot. That is where a lot of these confessions are. Twitter is where a lot of these confessions are. Instagram and Twitter, and then by extension Facebook, have confession after confession after confession. Don't believe me? I got 49 of them right now on Buy Me a Coffee. You want to see all 49? Go to Buy Me a Coffee, put $10 on it, and get the subscription in first class. I know I'm advertising for myself, but what I'm saying is you will see 49 of them. The next confession I post is going to be the 50th one. Now, sometimes I put up the link if I think it's going to stay up for a long time. Like when Olivia Alexa puts up her information. She always confessing. There's a confession every time she uploads something. Gregory Scotland said TikTok is horrible, meaning you can find more confessions there. Boy, does that tell you something right there. But see, Olivia Alexa is just one example. But let's say you get somebody else's. Man, look, what I do is I take the screenshots and I put them up on Buy Me a Coffee. This way, long after these confessors have taken their posts down so you can't see them no more, I got the screenshots. You go to my Buy Me a Coffee, and there they are. I keep a folder with these confessions. That's what's going on. My next one will be 50. I opened up this Buy Me a Coffee account a little over a year ago, about a year and some weeks ago. I started catalyzing confessions. Maybe a little bit before the summer started. Maybe it was April or May I started with the confessions. Do you guys understand what I'm getting at? Are you picking up what I'm putting down, gentlemen? The confessions are no joke. That's how bad it gets. So this series was not about just, it wasn't just missing the point. This series was bigger than missing the point. It was showing how everybody was missing the point. You got adults who mean well, like D.I. Bascom, and they don't know. And then his detective sergeant who knew something about it but didn't fully understand what was going on. However, she knew that there was a gender war, and it's happening right under the noses of these elders. They don't realize it. So you got, this was about societal deterioration overall. Over everything. And the milestone, the landmark that the gender war is inside of the societal deterioration. The schools can't teach these kids anything. The kids listen to nobody. And that happens to a certain extent here, except there's a bit more respect. The schools can't teach them. The parents can't teach them because they're too busy working. No one can teach them except social media. And even then, you're going to have to address what it is that they face. And so the girls, what do they want? They want the most attention and the most material gifts. So whoever tells them that they're entitled to that is to whom they will listen. Shira 7. The boys, what do they want? They want attention from the girls, and they want to be able to succeed in life. What does this mean? They want answers for the most part. They may not feel entitled to the girls or the women, but they want answers. They want at least information. Well, what do these ladies want? How do I plan my life? That's what they're looking for. Guess what? If you're not going to answer these questions, you're irrelevant to them. Don't talk to them about physics that they're never going to use. Don't talk to them about math formulas they're never going to use. Don't talk to them about accounting they'll never use. Tell them, hey, listen, you know what? Women don't like most of you, and that's not your fault. You are not to blame for that. So you can sit up and determine how likely you think it is that you can get married and have kids. And here's what you can do. If you don't think that you're likely to, don't blame yourself. Just plan your life by yourself. Go ahead and plan your life like you're going to live it for yourself, not for your kids. If you're one of these guys that women like, you can have kids. You can marry and have them. So go ahead and plan your life for a family. Then they can determine what's relevant for them. And the subjects will then take on the relevance they were meant to address. This is about the impracticality of an educational system, along with the societal deterioration, underscored, undermined, and accelerated by the downhill forces of a gender war. The boys are seen as useless and worthless, but no one's telling them that it is not their fault. Nobody told Jamie because he couldn't talk to anybody about this. So no one said to Jamie, hey, look, you know what? It ain't your fault, Jamie. Jamie thought he was ugly. When he met with that shrink that interviewed him, he thought he was ugly. And the shrink started asking questions of him that he would not know the answers to at age 13. These are questions he would have, not something he could answer at age 13. He was confused in that interview. That seemed to me to be very realistic. It showed that nobody's telling these boys, so it undermined, the series undermined exactly what it was I said before. You must tell these young boys what it is that you know and where to find out more. You cannot let their mothers make that determination, even though they're their mothers. Even as simp daddies can't make this determination. You must undermine what it is that their parents would say. If dad and mom ain't gonna teach them this red pill awareness, what these games are, how to protect themselves, how to not lose in this gender war, how to not be victims of paternity fraud and the marriage, and more so the divorce laws, then you can do it. You must do it. Because just like Def Rocker here was saying, social media by itself could tell them anything. It ain't gonna always be right. Hey, y'all look, put 12 more on my Cash App, please. I'm saying that because that'll give me up to an even number. 12 more. I'm about to be done anyway. But you see, social media can be of a help. But the thing is that it can't be everything for them. Andrew Tate cannot be a role model to these guys. He can be an informer when he informs them. As soon as Andrew Tate starts talking about what to do and how to pimp and how to manipulate, what does it do? It'll get these kids in legal trouble, and they won't get out of it like Andrew Tate did. Andrew Tate was fighting this stuff with a fortune, some of which was frozen, so that he would not have access to it, but he was fighting this stuff with a fortune and crazy support from the outside. These regular boys trying to fight this fight are going to lose. One false accusation and they're going to lose. and spend time behind bars. Because they're up against an entire system, not just a gender that doesn't take accountability, but an entire system run by both genders that will exonerate these women of accountability. All she ever has to say is, I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't understand, I wasn't conscious, anything like that, and it's the man's fault, right off the bat. So I tell you what, either 2, 7, or 12 for the Cash App. That's what I'm asking for. 2 more, 7 more, 12 more, just to get me to an even amount on that. That's what I'm asking for. I'm about to break away from this and go eat anyway, probably about 3 minutes, inshallah. But Adolescence was largely about all of these things. It was largely about that. It underscored things I'd said before. It was about, and understand this is on Netflix. I'm sitting up here in Saudi Arabia watching this, and they got a bunch of people here that are bilingual, and they watch movies in English. Do you think, especially women, do you think this message is not going to reach them? It already has. It's under the surface now. You still got a strong family structure here, but this is going to break these families up even here. Mark my words. I don't want it to, but I'm afraid it will. So what I'm saying to you all is, what you need to do, gentlemen, Gail has come through again. Thank you so much. And so for hold on, let me update this right quick. You got the reply. So for B. Snelling and Gail, thank you so much. So now, y'all, 4 more from anybody will bring me to an even amount. Just another 4. So look, it underscored these things. Number 1, that it's really about societal decline and the milestone that the gender war is in that. Number 2, about how pervasive this gender war is. And how, frankly, the girls do not fivaguk about the boys' perspective, and the boys can't understand the girls' perspective because of the mystery surrounding women. Number 3, it is about how pervasive this is, underscoring the need to go and tell these boys without their parents. Thank you so much, Nana. I really do appreciate that. You tried. Thank you, sir. Just for trying. Now this here can be either way. English is a language, and a language could go either way. It can be constructive or destructive. Either one is possible. But because a lot of people here do speak it, so you have a lot of kids here, none other that are westernized. They're not just bilingual, they're westernized. So once something is put out for the market over there where you live, but it's in English, they can see it here, and they will sit up and actually buy into it. And a lot of the girls here are more fluently bilingual than the men. So they will turn around and buy into this stuff. We've already had a similar situation here. Gregory Scotland said, how many times in the 90s did these girls accuse some teachers, male teachers, of essay, and it was false? I don't know how many times it happened, but I do want y'all to understand this. We've had false accusations already begin to scare guys here. See, shortly after the COVID outbreak, not just the lock-ins, but after the COVID outbreak, I had some students tell me that nurses that were taking care of them when they were sick in the hospital said, if you touch me, I'm going to report you for harassment. These guys were sick. Could barely breathe because their lungs were filling up. Pinching booties is the furthest thing from their mind. And they were sitting up saying, I was sick. I wasn't thinking like that. But sometimes they were the ones putting hands on us because they were looking after us, but they would say this to us, and we're like, I'm not touching you. I'm barely conscious. What's the reason for that? Because these girls are pressuring each other, just like the guys are pressuring each other in the West to be successful with these women. But you can't. And the younger guys are beginning to understand that that's not going to work. But you still have some of these guys that are successful trying to pressure other guys to be successful with the very same women that are mysterious and don't really want most guys anyway. Well, when you have that double standard, you know how you had back in the 90s dudes lying on their ding-a-ling? Well, see, now over here, you got a situation in which girls pressure each other to get attention from guys that know not to say anything to women because harassment gets you 5 years in prison. Business, no. Asking directions, no. Giving directions, no. None of these things. But harassment will get you 5 years in prison here. You get a trial, you get to argue and show evidence in your favor, but you get, if you're convicted, it's 5 years. So these guys are afraid to harass. The women are afraid to harass. They're kind of too proud to do it too. But see, these women out here trying to compete to get men's attention over here where I live. So you got to tell these young dudes where I live and where you live about the red pill awareness. Not every reaction that every red pill aware guy puts up, because you don't want to go the Andrew Tate route. You don't want to try to run these women and be successful with a bunch of and be a pimp and a player. You don't want to do that. But what I am getting at is that we have to tell these, and that was the other thing, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say, then I'm gone. Notice that when what's going on, Chaos Rain? What's happening, bro? Notice this, and thank you for this compliment, the other side. When that shrink inside the detention center interviewed Jamie is the one that was accused. When she interviewed Jamie and started asking all these questions, some of which he could not possibly know the answers to because he was 13 and he looked like he was 11. So he was going to be inexperienced. And that wasn't his fault. It becomes very clear that this kid was trying to sort this stuff out on his own. Who could he ask about this? Who was going to tell him? Well, he says in there that he did believe in the 80-20 rule, that 80% of the women liked only 20% of the men. He did believe that, but when he had a look into the red pill stuff, he didn't really like it. You know what that is? That means that when he saw the answer, he wasn't ready for it. Therefore, he didn't get the awareness that he needed. He didn't find the details and the answers that he needed because he didn't realize zooming out, or he didn't realize that the snapshot he got in the beginning, when you zoom in, is actually where the answers are. He had to sit up and try to figure out, taking a quick look and browse through different websites while he's also a school student trying to pass from one grade to the next. Kid ain't got time for that. So he didn't get this. He couldn't see the trees for the forest. That's why we need someone to go in and explain the forest and the trees to them, so they don't have to sort through it all themselves. Then they can go in and sort through it for themselves later on. But they need a snapshot of some trees and a snapshot of the forest, both. Then they can sort out the rest, but we need to do that. It underlined that. That right there was everything. That right there. He missed a lot of information. And that was why it was that he wound up in the trouble in which he wound. Trying to figure it out. Trying to understand. And he still didn't know. So there he was in custody with a bunch of dudes that hate any type of crimes like what he was accused of. And apparently, you have to watch it to see how guilty he was or was not. But you have to go in and take a look and see all that. But the thing is, here he was locked up with dudes who still have a lot of the blue pill mentality and were just fighting this kid all the time. And at the end of it all, he was just trying to figure it out on his own. And he had his dad in his life. But there he was, a normal looking kid, just young looking, thinking he was ugly. That's the main thing about it. He missed the answer. I think the directors and writers were pretty much saying, this is the answer right there, that red pill awareness, that knowledge is the answer. Don't skip it. Thank you for the compliment, Ghosty and Nana. Nana, I hope that people do see what it is that you wrote here. It's time for me to go in. I got 15 minutes left before the Adhan for Fudge is called, so I got to gobble something down. I really do appreciate you all sticking with me for this. I mean that from the bottom of my black heart, from the depths of my black mind. Shout out again to Gregory Scotland. I mean that. Thank you for bringing me up to an even amount. I really do appreciate that. You came through, you did it at the very end. So you got me to a nice even amount, and salute to you. So I hope this helped out. Please hit the share button on this one. If it benefited you and you know somebody else that can derive benefit from it, please hit that share button. To the Muslims amongst you, Salam Alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak, and I hope that you guys make it to the night of power and get your supplications answered. And y'all make dua for me. Ask Allah to answer my particular dua that I'm about to put through to him. And thank you for flying with us here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.